I was talking the other day to a young gamer, and I mean young, and we were mentioning wargames magazines, and I said I used to get military modelling when I was his age, about 14, 15, and he said, and that's a quote, "I didn't think they had magazines back then." What? So, to prove that we did, I'm going to do a little video about a copy I found of military modelling, September 1973. 20 pence in the UK, USA and Canada, $1. There you go. So it exists. I've shown it you. I've proved it. The front cover has got a really nice model of a samurai on it. One of the things I've noticed looking through this magazine is a lot of the figures are of a larger scale. And there's a lot of conversions. There's a 2-page article, just do this first, do this second, and it's all about putting a metal figure together using araldite type glues where you mix a hardener and so on and you put them on. And there's a lot of welding things we don't do. I don't think I've ever welded anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an image, and then as I go through the magazine, logically, not every page, there's a lot of it, but things I think you might find interesting. And then, after I've put the image on, I will talk about that image, and then I'll put it on again at the end just to remind you. And then perhaps right at the very end, I'll just put all the images on, so you can pause it if you want. You can screen shooty poos it. You can, maybe I'll put a short on with them all on, just so you can have a look at your leisure, assuming you have any leisure. So I'm now going to look at the first thing that comes along, which is, funnily enough, and it's on the back of the front page, and it's an advertisement for paint. Pretty much Humbrol paint is what we used. It was always very bright, strong colours. It was enamel. You cleaned your brushes with, I mean, we didn't even use paint thinner. We used terps, and it smelled, and it ruined your brushes. And if you look at the advert closely, whoever's doing the painting has got a sort of brush I used to do a windowsill. There's none of them 5-0 fine dining brushes. These are your big whopping industrial brushes. If that brush has been used to paint that tartan as carefully as that, I will eat my veritable shako. That's all I'm going to say. Well, so that's that, I suppose. And now I'm going to show you the next bit. Clearly I've put that in because it's miniature figurines, and there's a bit of my personal nostalgia there, because miniature figurines would be where I would go. To be honest, at this stage I wouldn't have even been looking at miniature figurines. I would have been going to the Hinchcliffe page. But that brings up an interesting point from the 70s. This is where we found out what figures were available. There's no YouTube. This is the only magazine I encountered that was a wargaming magazine. So when I got this each month, this is how I knew what was around. And because I knew, for example, about Hinchcliffe Napoleonics, because of the games that we were playing at the Wargames Club, we would ask the owner of the Wargames shop, the Stamp Corner, to stock Hinchcliffe 25mm Napoleonic. and he knew what we wanted. So we could say to him, look, I am going to buy quite a few, but I can only afford 4 a week. But he would make sure they were there for you. And you could go in and you could say, can I have or your mum could go in. If you could go in on a weekday, on a Wednesday, when she'd gone shopping, she might say, can I have our Galen's Napoleonics? And she hadn't got a clue what I wanted, but they did. So that was always very nice. So yeah, it's quite a nostalgia trip. They're not even I had Prussians, so they're not even the chaps I had. But hey, you know, it's got to be done, hasn't it? The other thing about the miniature figurines advert I thought was quite interesting was the advert at the bottom for classic guns. I'm not sure you could do that now. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you can't. But this is an advertisement, and it makes a specific point. New from the US, and obviously it's a big model. It's 1/16 scale, brass and white metal. This is a fancy piece of kit, and it's nearly £9. I mean, it's a lot of money for some of us now. It was a lot of money back then. But the point is that to see things from the US, you had to be seeing them in magazines or having them recommended. And one of the Hinchcliffe adverts that comes later on has a little note on about, watch out in America, we are coming. And I think their first sales, the first store that sold Hinchcliffe in America, if I'm right, we'll find out in a minute, but I've got a feeling it was in Dallas. So again, that's how you found out about them. There were no Hinchcliffe. You couldn't go on the internet and order them. Or you could do overseas postage and packing. I mean, postage and packing on that massive gun is 25 pence. What's that? That's £0.25. Wow. We don't even have quarters of pounds now, do we? And I did notice one of the other adverts, and I don't know if I filmed it, if I've got to take a picture of it, but I hope I have. I've only just noticed it when I finished, and it's like, I can't remember the exact number, but the last bit, 32.5 pence. Only in the United Kingdom in the 70s could we go from pounds, shillings and pence to supposedly decimal and have a half p. How can you have a half p in decimal? There's no wonder our heads were fried. Interesting, the Hinchcliffe models that I'm looking at now were all of a large scale. These are not the 25mm. These are big lads. But 75mm, new 75mm range. I'm not aware. I would never have bought 75mm figures. Never. I don't think I ever have. No, I haven't. It's not really my wheelhouse, if you know what I mean. I'd be interested if any of you did, but I haven't. So what can I tell you? Hinchcliffe, 75mm, not for me. Just being honest. So now we come to a section that was in the magazine every month called Dispatches. And this was our opportunity. We would write and we would let off steam, or we would make a comment. Now some of them I find quite interesting. So I'm going to pick the magazine up at this point. So the first one, Napoleonic Artillery by Phil Barker. Third one is by Charles Grant. Fourth one by Charles Grant. Can't see anybody else I know there, but that, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? My favourite So the 7, I'm not reading them all, but this is my favourite. It's entitled Horrors! Exclamation mark. I nearly decided to send you an official letter to the editor, but decided that, without a doubt, you will be getting much correspondence on the subject because of your fearful mistake in the caption picture of the month August, which I received this morning. It was enough to make any old Highlander turn in his grave, as you referred to a picture as showing the Scots Greys passing through the Black Watch at Waterloo. Horror. It was the Gordon Highlanders, of course, and 92nd as they were. Tut, tut, tut. All you had to do was to consult the fine, excellent work of the Men-at-Arms series, brackets, Osprey, and look at the Royal Scots Greys by some chap called Grant, ... Yours in great sorrow, signed, Charles Grant. Yeah, very good. So clearly grumpiness abounded. I quite like that. A lot of these letters and articles are super serious and super historic. There's one about the Sherman tank, and it's about the thickness of the armour, and it's about Scratch building it, and it's about which engine. There's another letter here. Where is it about? Here we are. This is another one. Dear Sir, it was with great interest I read Terence Wise's article on the Mark III in the May issue. Having served with the 9th Lancers, 52 to 55 in Germany, I would like to comment on a few points. 1. The B-set wireless had a range of 1,000 visual yards and utilised a 20-inch aerial. I last used it in the summer of 54. Due to its restricted visual range, we normally used a channel of our AFV-88 sets with a 3-mile range for troop intercommunication, leaving a set for squadron and regimental nets. Due to the heavily wooded areas in Germany, I can remember having up to 16 feet of aerial. Dear. Here's another one. I would like to make the following comments. In the review of the Airfix recovery set, it is stated that the 5-ton Cole Mark IV 7 crane was fitted to the Austin K6. That is not so. The crane fitted to the 3-ton 6x4 chassis. It was either the Coles Mark 6 3-ton Series 2 or the Mark 6 2-ton with a quarter jib. The turntable was also quite different in construction. The Mark 8 was, however, also fitted to the Leyland Hippo Mark II chassis. No mention is made of the gross inaccuracy of the Bedford Oxford tractor. Exclamation marks everywhere. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Superb. How great is that? That passion. That was that. I was talking the other about magic. That's magic. That is magic. Bottle that man's ire and dismay and anger about all of those numbers, and you'll start to see where we're going. Another regular feature of the magazine was the model shop directory. And that's, it's really good. Surprising, how many shops there are. There are about 3 pages. Now, there's not many on here that are in Canada and the US, but there's a lot. Like, for example, if I just go at random, you've got one in Barnstable, Ewing's, which is still there now. I go to Ewing's pretty much every Thursday, and I buy my Airfix kits and things there. On here it says, Ewing's, we lead the way. Extensive ranges, and it still has Tamiya and Fujimi and Airfix. Yeah, over 40 firms stocked. Exeter, Dover, Bradford. Some places, Leeds have got 2. Haworth, who, not surprisingly, but stock. Hinchcliffe. We've got, turn the page over, there's 2 there in Birmingham, there's another page full. We've got London, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Long Island, Ohio, Scarborough, Southampton, Sussex, Middlesbrough, Newbury. So, you know, it was, you could, where am I going? Like me, I went to university in Leeds, but I went to teach training college in Scarborough. Stamp corner in Scarborough, stamp shop, sells metal figures, #1 priority solved. Again, you couldn't find out about these things. There's no way of knowing. There aren't television programs, there weren't magazines, there was this magazine, that you didn't have the information. You had to know stuff to know stuff. So unless you talk to someone who'd been to, I don't know, let's have a look, Walsall, you didn't know there was a wargame shop in Walsall unless you lived in that area. So it was hard to know things. It was word of mouth, it was an accident, you go somewhere. I remember going to York for a day trip and just wandering around York, down a little side street, little back alley, I found a brilliant wargame shop. I didn't know it was there, I just bumped into it. But then every time I went to York, that's where I went. So it was all sort of word of mouth and accident, generally. But that was true about finding clubs as well. There's no clubs advertised in here. There were later. That's how I found a Wargames club in 1979. When I lived in Rochdale, I found a club in Oldham, and I found that through an advertisement in a magazine. So they were happening. I suppose, like all good shows, I need to leave you with a joke. So I will let you look at the joke and then I will comment on the joke. And I'm not making any comment as to whether it's good, bad or indifferent as a joke. I actually thought it was quite good. Two naked men sat in a fish pond playing with boats. And that, my little sweethearts, is the end of that. So, I hope everything's fine. I might have some big news for you soon. Watch this space. Or this space, or this space, or this space. But watch some space. And ta-ra, Chuck!